Hello and welcome. So in this lesson, I'm going to talk about converting units of area. And in order to do that, we first need to make sure we understand unit multipliers or unit conversion, which I have talked about in the classroom before, and I just showed you a video on that. But I'm just going to go over it really quick to make sure we understand what's actually going on in unit conversion. So let's say we have a problem like use two unit multipliers to convert 5 hours to seconds. So I need to get from 5 hours to seconds. And off the top of my head, I don't know how many seconds are in an hour. But I know some other ratios that will help me get there. So first, I know how many minutes are in an hour. So I know that for every 1 hour, there is 60 minutes. And I know how many seconds are in a minute. So I know that for every 1 minute, I have 60 seconds. So using these two ratios, I'll be able to get from hours to seconds. So I start with what they give me in the problem, 5 hours. And I want to change the unit from hours to seconds. So I'm going to multiply it by these two ratios here. So first I'll multiply it by this ratio because I'm going to get out of hours and into minutes. So I put what I'm getting out of on the bottom, 1 hour for every 60 minutes. And once I multiply it by this ratio, I would be in minutes. So 5 hours is 5 times 60 minutes. It's 300 minutes. But I need to go a little bit further, and I need to get that to seconds. So once I have it in minutes, and I got rid of those hours, I can go into seconds. So I put what I'm getting out of on the bottom, 1 minute on the bottom, is 60 seconds. And now I would be in seconds. Because we know that in a fraction like this, if I have 6 over 6, that's actually just equal to 1. So the same thing is true here. If I have minutes and I'm dividing that by minutes, I can get rid of that whole unit. I'm out of minutes now and I'm into seconds. So then I do 5 times 60 over 1, or just times 60 times 60 over 1 again. So I'm doing 5 times 60 times 60. And I get the answer of 18,000 seconds. Okay, now in the problems like the ones I'm about to do, we are not only converting from one unit to another, we're converting units of area. So let me explain. If I have a rectangle like this, and I'm trying to solve for its area. So let's say the top is 3 feet and the side is 2 feet. The way that I would solve for this area is multiply the length times width. So I would get 3 times 2. I would be multiplying 3 feet times 2 feet. And then I would get 6 feet squared. And that squared is really key here. Because if you look here, I'm multiplying 1 unit of feet times another unit of feet, which means now I have a unit squared. I have 2 of that unit. And this makes sense. Because this rectangle does not measure out to be 6 feet. That doesn't make any sense because this rectangle has 2 dimensions to it. If a rectangle was just 6 feet, it would just be a line. This line can be 6 feet. But the area of a rectangle is showing the length and the width. I have 2 dimensions in a rectangle, so my unit has to have 2 dimensions to it. It has to be squared. So this is really integral to understanding converting units of area. So now, if I get the answer of 6 feet squared, but I actually want to find out, say, the answer in inches. So maybe I'm trying to, this rectangle is my floor, right? And I'm trying to buy carpet for that. And I know that the area of my floor is 6 feet squared, but the amount of carpet that I want to buy is being sold in inches. So that doesn't help me that I know 6 feet squared. I need to figure out how many square inches my carpet is. So I would have to take that amount, 6 feet squared, and convert it to inches squared. So I start with 6 feet squared. And I'm going to use some ratios that I know to get from that feet to inches. So let me write my ratios over here. For every 1 foot, I have 12 inches. So I only have to use one ratio here. And as I did before, I'm going to put what I'm getting rid of on the bottom. So I don't want to be in feet anymore. And I know that for every 1 foot, I have 12 inches. And that will make this feet cancel out. But I have a problem here. I'm really only getting rid of the feet once. And let me show you why. This right here, 6 feet squared, can be rewritten as 6 times feet times feet. So I really have 3 things happening here. I have a 6 times a unit of feet times another unit of feet. So when I multiply it by this ratio, I'm really only getting rid of 1 of the feet. So I'm going to have to do the same ratio again in order to get rid of the second unit of feet. So I'm going to have to multiply by the ratio of 12 inches over 1 foot again. And then I can get rid of this second unit of feet. And then that will put me in inches squared. Because look, I have an inches here and I have an inches here. So when I do 6 times 12 times 12, I end up with 864 inches squared. So I don't just know how many inches my floor is, I know how many inches squared it is, and therefore I know how much carpet I need to buy for my floor. Let's try another example. Okay, in this example, they want me to convert 5 square yards to square feet. And I know that 5 square yards actually means 5 times yards again. And I'm going to have to use 2 unit multipliers to convert to feet squared. So I know that my ratio is for every 1 yard, there's 3 feet. So I'm going to multiply it by that ratio. And on the bottom, I'm going to put what I'm getting rid of, which is 1 yard, because I don't want to be in yards anymore. And on top, I'm going to put what I'm going into, which is feet. So 3 feet. And now that will get me out of 1 of my units of yards. So I'm going to have to do it again to get rid of that second unit of yards. So then I can do 5 times 3 over 1 times 3 over 1, which will get me an answer of 45 feet squared. Don't forget that squared. That's very important. Okay, one more. Convert 1.2 meters squared to square centimeters. So this time, instead of actually writing out 1.2 m squared as 1.2 times m, I'm just going to keep it in mind while I'm doing my problem. So I have 1.2 meters squared, and I'm going to multiply that by the ratio. So I know that for every 1 meter, I have 100 centimeters, because remember that root centi means 100. So I'm going to multiply it by that ratio, and I'm getting out of meters, so I put that on the bottom, and I'm going into centimeters, so that goes on top. And that will only cancel out of 1 of those m's, so now I'm going to have to do it again. And now I'm getting rid of the second m. So I'm going to do 1.2 times 100 times 100, which equals 12,000 centimeters squared. Now, if it said meters cubed and asked me to go to cubed centimeters, I would have to multiply it by 1 more ratio to get rid of 3 units of meters. So I'd have to do it 1 more time. And that would get rid of the 3rd meter. And if I was going into cubed centimeters, the answer would be 1,200,000 centimeters cubed. Okay, I hope that made sense.